Welcome to Open Tables. With your hosts, Cynthia Sue Larson.
That it's okay for everybody to change. It's okay to let things go. And that's really powerful.
Christopher Anatra.
The universe is based on commerce. You know me as the quantum businessman.
Jerry Hicks.
I feel like I've woken up in a parallel dimension where everybody's exactly the same. They look the same memories generally speaking, but they're different.
Shane Robinson.
Nobody has all the answers, so everybody's welcome to share their ideas, and it really expands our consciousness when we do that.
And Kimberly Lynn Hansen.
Well, get your hearts up.
Open Tables. Unique perspectives for a new view of reality.
And welcome, ladies and gentlemen, to the very first episode of the Open Tables. Before we get started, producer Heather here, can we go ahead and get those first two slides up? I would like to go ahead and do that disclaimer real quick and get that on the way. And then we can get into the meat of this fun show. Ladies and gentlemen, welcome to Season 1, Episode 1, The Golden Timeline. We hope you enjoyed this discussion tonight. I promise by the end it will make sense. We do apologize for the late getting on the air. Also, we had some technical difficulties. Slide, please. And, ladies and gentlemen, disclaimer, this content you are about to watch is meant for thought and consideration. Please be respectful of each other and opinions shared. This is a safe space to express thoughts, ideas, and information. Please note that no copyright infringement is intended with regard to inclusion of short excerpts of material that are included in accordance with the fair use under Section 107 of the Copyright Act. Thank you, Heather. We very much appreciate that. Ladies and gentlemen, I would like to now introduce our hosts this evening. We will have 4 hosts each show. Sometimes we're going to switch out who is actually on the panel. Our first host this evening, CEO of IMEC Incorporated, ladies and gentlemen, Cynthia Sue Larson.
Thank you. And I'm so happy to be here with all of you, and we share such an interest in the Mandela effect, which is what we're here to talk about today. The idea of this Open Tables is to really open the subject up, taking a certain theme each time. My background is for over 20 years. I've been researching the Mandela effect. Before it was called that, I wrote a book called Reality Shifts, which covered Larry Hagman, who was alive again and then died again, very much like what happened with Nelson Mandela. So I was documenting that back in the 1990s, and I've got a website, realityshifters.com, where I continued every month to share reports of Mandela effects and reality shifts and quantum jumps. And my background is in physics. Quantum physics was my favorite subject when I was studying physics, and I still work with many scientists today in quantum physics. I'm friends with several of the people in Foundations of Mind, which is I'm a board member of also and managing director of, and organizing conferences to talk about consciousness. But my passion is right here with all of you guys talking about these mind-matter interactions that we're witnessing. What does it mean for humanity? Where are we going? Let's find out. So thank you.
Thank you, Cynthia. It's an absolute pleasure to have you on board. I always love a scientist's point of view on things. It's always good to have a variety of different people. And speaking of variety, we go from a scientist to a quantum businessman, ladies and gentlemen, Mr. Christopher Anatra.
Hi, everybody. My name is Christopher Anatra. You know me as the quantum businessman. Yeah, so a lot of people first had exposure to me when I created a video related to my business for my clients that were having Mandela effects, although they didn't understand that it was an actual Mandela effect or what it actually meant. And so that video kind of launched me to create other videos about the Mandela effect and how they tie in together and how Mandela effects, you can find hidden meanings to them, which is the big thing that I love to do. And I do research into something called the Akashic Records. I bring that into it as well. you can think of that as like the internet of the universe is the Akashic Records. So that's my specialty. And I'm very happy to be with everybody here today. So thank you.
It's funny, a DJ has the worst time finding the mute button, ladies and gentlemen. That is the truth. And speaking of truth, ladies and gentlemen, we've got a great truth seeker also with us, Mr. Unbiased and on the fence himself, Shane Robinson.
Thank you so much. And yeah, I'm Shane Robinson, and I run the YouTube channel Unbiased and on the Fence. And I actually started it right before I realized the Mandela effect was actually real. I'd heard about it for about a year, and in the beginning of 2017, it rocked my world. I mean, it's a great tool, but it's the most mind-blowing thing that I've ever experienced, because the very reality that feels so solid and unchangeable can change. It's seemingly impossible ways. So yeah, that started me a journey. And like Christopher, I've tried to look deeper into some of the changes and find meaning to it. And I really recommend everyone do that because I think it's really tailored to everyone. And it can be a great tool, not only for your own development, but to sort of wake other people up. Not everybody, because not everybody sees it for some reason. But, you know, I think they can, but I think they're just not open to it, you know. But this group has been so great because, you know, people are so open-minded. And, you know, they're really hungry for truth and really interested in what's going on with this. And so for me, the Mandela effect has really been a great way to bring people together. And of course, myself, along with 3 others, have written a book called Mandela Effect, Friend or Foe as well.
Thank you, Shane, for that amazing introduction. I, ladies and gentlemen, of course, am Jerry the Dark Wolf Hicks. It was actually me who came up with the idea to originally found this amazing dream team and kick off this Mandela Effect conference thing that we've been doing for a little over a year now, maybe 2 years now. I am so proud to work with such an amazing dream team here. These guys have been absolutely incredible to work with. Very, very great experiences. Researcher, for those that don't know, for 28 years. The Mandela Effect being my most recent thing that I've been really into. It's absolutely incredible to me. I have done the theory series. My thing is to try to theorize and figure out the deeper things that are going on, perhaps to try to figure out what is the Mandela effect. Like most people theorized on UFOs and ghosts and cryptids, which I've done for years. The Mandela effect is my newest pet project, and I absolutely love it. And I pulled together the Mandela Effect Conference and had the idea to pull together the community and really have a place to share ideas and different points of view and really try to get to the bottom and figure out what is going on with the Mandela Effect. And I am so glad to have every last one of you guys here around the world in the chat. It is absolutely amazing. Also, you can find me on Rippin' Common Sense Radio Wednesday and Thursday nights. I do the Dark Wolf's Den show where we discuss a variety of paranormal topics. With that said, ladies and gentlemen, our producer, Heather, if I could get the slides back up, and I'm going to pass this off, ladies and gentlemen, to our very own Christopher Anatra for our sponsors for this episode.
Okay, so yeah, we're going to try to keep on track here. So we've got these slides we're going to go through. The first slide is just to kind of give everyone an idea of what the agenda is for the show. So we're going to be providing updates, each of us a little update about what's going on in our lives. The second item we're going to talk about is the review of the HBO show, How To with John Wilson. Many of you that are watching this have probably at least heard about it. And because we were part of that show and part of that production, we want to kind of talk about it from our point of view and express, you know, some of the things and some of the brilliant things behind that. The third item on the list is the subject of our show that we're calling the Golden Timeline. We'll be able to let you guys know what that's all about. What does it mean, the Golden Timeline? And then at the end, the fourth item on the agenda is to do a live question and answer. So, yeah, and by the way, we do have sponsors to our show. And if Heather, if you can go on to the next slide, I could introduce one of the sponsors. Yes, we have this episode, by the way, season 1, episode 1, the Golden Timeline. is brought to you by the giant rainbow squirrel of India. It's also known as the Malabar squirrel. I heard that when these pictures first came out on the internet, people were literally going nuts over the squirrel. It didn't seem like it was a real thing, like a Dr. Seuss character, but it actually is a real animal that we know as we call them mandanimals. So I don't know if Cynthia or Shane or Jerry wanted to chime in anything about that.
Yeah, this one is really new to me. I definitely would have seen something like this. I'm pretty sure if it had existed, because I love animals, love squirrels. I've been to India. So when you've got a convergence like that and then something like this shows up, it's really startling. I mean, that's how I felt. Like, what? It's two things. One, it's giant, and secondly, it's rainbow colored. And I really this would have been on my radar, and it somehow slipped right past. So to me, this is something new. And that's the hallmark of a Mandela effect. When you look back and something has supposedly always been there, but it's new to me. So, and that's another interesting thing. It might not be new to everyone. This one is definitely new to me. So I'll just go on the record with that.
So the size of it, the giant squirrel, that doesn't surprise me as much. However, we have seen across the years this rainbow theme in the Mandela effect, from the rainbow mountains to the rainbow rivers to rainbow squirrels, ladies and gentlemen. I have never seen a multicolored squirrel that looks like he got lost in an Easter egg basket. That is absolutely...
Yeah, right? I mean, totally. Like, what happened?
That is so strange. That definitely... I'm not a person to call mandanimals because I don't know all the animals. I'm not going to pretend to, but I've never heard of a multicolored Technicoat squirrel. So,
and if there was, I mean, because of the colors, it looks like the 60s, right? Like, you would have heard about this in the 60s with all of the Beatles going to India and, the meditation and all that stuff. There'd be like, this is the spirit animal of meditation and this new hippie movement, but I never heard anything about that.
A rainbow squirrel. That's, yeah. I don't even know what to say about that. That's very interesting. I haven't seen any in my local parks. Have you guys?
Not yet.
They're in India, you say?
Yeah, India. Yes. Yeah, and like Cynthia's saying, I always look for like cartoons, stuffed animals, because you think this is like a perfect setup for like a kid's cartoon or something like that. I couldn't find anything. So there you go.
I'll be honest with you. If I'm at a fair and I'm playing one of those cheesy games and they've got a stuffed animal of a squirrel and it's multicolored like that, I'm going to think that is the cheesiest B-graded stuffed animal ever. Like, I wouldn't even want, because I think there must have been a knockoff that they just got, Who's ever heard of a rainbow squirrel, right?
Shane, is there anything you wanted to add?
Shane has had a malfunction and will be back with us shortly. He had a very small technical glitch.
Okay.
No problem. We do have other sponsors, believe it or not. If we can go to the next slide, Heather. Yes. Our sponsors also include the Rainbow Mandarin Drake Duck, a duck like a rainbow. Very interestingly, one was discovered in New York City in Central Park in 2018. No one knows how it got there. They first thought it might have escaped from a zoo, but there are no zoos within a 4-hour distance, at least, that had any of these ducks. Some people feel it might have been someone had it as a pet and maybe let it go. But yeah, I never saw ducks like this before in my life.
Guys, I don't, for some reason, I got so much going on. I don't always have a chance to look through the slides previously. And you're getting like a raw first time view here, ladies and gentlemen. This, I could see like a regular mallard with the blue, right? That makes sense to me. Then it looks like it's got into like a kindergarten class where they just used glue into the paper that they had left over and just stuck it to them. That is weird as can be. Again, it follows this odd rainbow theme. I've never, ever seen anything like this in my life.
Now, this one may or may not be new to me. I vaguely remember something about an Asian duck that was kind of exotic. So, like I said earlier, sometimes you might hit something, and for me, I'm not really sure about this one. It's sort of on the verge of a memory, like seems vaguely familiar. Like maybe I've heard of an Asian duck that was super, super fancy, but I have never seen one in America. That was really weird when it showed up in New York for me.
Maybe Escape from Chinatown.
Yeah, the squirrel and this are brand new to me, but I can't say for sure whether they existed. I couldn't put them in my 100% pile, you know.
Well,
like the Rainbow Mountains. I can for sure put the Rainbow Mountains, which is another rainbow thing, because when I first found out about them, they were in one location. And then I went to show somebody a few weeks later, and they were at like 3 or 4 locations. And I'm not sure if it's grown since that time, but, you know, it's like when you really think about it, you're like, China, yeah, could have maybe. And then they're like all over the world. It's like, wait a minute, I just researched this, and now I know they didn't just pop up all of a sudden, but apparently they've always been there. So I love that.
And there are more sponsors. We'll go to the next slide, Heather. Okay, so
what in God's name is this?
It's the peacock spider and the rainbow grasshopper. The peacock spider is in the jumping spider family, and they're in Australia. And the rainbow grasshopper, also known as the painted grasshopper or the barber pole grasshopper, maybe that's because a barber pole has a different colors in the stripes, also known as the Uncle Sam grasshopper. They're located in the United States and Canada. I haven't personally seen one, but there you go.
This is completely new to me. I mean, this is outrageous. And it would be nice if you could make it bigger too, because these are small on the screen, but this is amazing. I've never heard of either the peacock spider or the rainbow caterpillar. And it seems like these are things we would have seen.
The spider is creep-tastic. I'll tell you that right now. I hate spiders anyway. So, yeah, totally creep-tastic on that for me. Australia, okay, there's some strange things that have come out of Australia. That thing is full of creatures that hate humans, all right? Everything in Australia wants you done. But that's not the one I'm really tripping on. It's strange, yes. But the one I'm tripping on is the one that looks like Mother Nature went on an acid trip and made a grasshopper. What in God's name is this? I've seen some weird stuff in my life. But this guy looks like a psychedelic trip on legs.
Yep. And we can go, unless Shane, if there's anything you want to add. There's one final sponsor that we'll get to.
No, that's I can't say anything better than Jerry just did. That's awesome.
Okay. Now this next one may or may not be a Mandela or a Mandanimal to you. It was to me. I had never heard of it before. But Heather, if you go on to the next slide, the next sponsor that we have is called the Anna's Hummingbird. What's interesting about the Anna's Hummingbird is that they appear to change color every second, like a rainbow. And what actually is happening is that the colors change when the feather's microstructure reflects light differently as the viewing angle changes. So they're basically moving their feathers and it's reflecting the light in a different way. And it's native to Baja and Southern California. So is this new for any of you as well? Actually, before anyone answers that question, Heather, if you go to the next slide, or I think you have a video queued up as well, right?
I was going to ask if we had the video.
See if this one will play. This might be too small, but we can.
This one I've actually seen. This is crazy.
Just like 45 seconds, but it gives you an idea of how the feathers work. So is this type of phenomenon new to anyone else?
This is really neat. It's brand new to me, though. Yeah, I'd never seen anything like this. It's amazing. It almost looks fake when you're watching it, but you can see how they can sort of perk their feathers up a little bit and either without moving, just kind of perk them up and change their color instantly, or move and change the color. So I was really checking it out at the different ways that they move and how it does make it hard to focus on them because they completely change from, pink to yellow. And yeah, I would have definitely noticed this, like a chameleon, but in a different sort of way.
Right.
Yeah, this one I'm not sure. I feel like I might have seen something like this, but I don't clearly remember it. So it's definitely interesting.
So I was watching a video the other day. It wasn't the same video that I thought. Yeah, this is the one. I stand corrected. Here's the one I was watching.
Wow. There's just some instantaneous color changes going on here.
This one blew my mind. This is the one that I thought was going to play the first time. I ran across that the other day when I actually looked into this particular one you guys sent me. My goodness, I've never in my life seen a creature like, we know chameleons can change color, but I've never heard of a chameleon bird, let alone one that can change at the flip of a dime. Like, why isn't the military talking about this? This is something military would be using for camouflage and everything else, I would think. Like, this would be a creature that we'd have heard about at least in the 90s, right? In my opinion.
Yeah, so those are our sponsors.
Excellent. We got rainbow mandanimals.
what is the natural, like, a positive for these rainbow things? Like, is it mating? Is it defense? Is it what is the natural selection reason that we would have all these different rainbow creatures? What do you guys think?
Well, if it's a predator, it makes more sense, it seems, because they can afford to be that showy. Like the spider made sense. The grasshopper, I don't get that, because that just looks like it's, standing out way too much. So I don't know what the advantage would be for nature to do that. That's a good question.
What do you think, Chris?
Yeah, it definitely would attract a mate. But one of the things that I feel too is with all of these rainbow animals, rainbow mountains, the rainbow prismatic springs at Yellowstone, all these things that are rainbow, to me, my hypothesis is that with the new frequencies of the planet and so forth, that I believe that our color spectrum might actually begin to change a little bit. I believe that we might be able to start to even see more colors of the rainbow, and maybe it's a sign about letting us know about that there's new things to come as far as colors go. So
is that to suggest it was always happening? We're just now able to perceive it?
Well, to me, it's like they're in the timeline now. So,
and rainbow trees too. I remember
yeah.
That's like totally new as well.
Yeah.
What do you think, Shane?
There's some rainbow rivers that are amazing, but I want to go back to what Chris was just saying, because just with my own eyes, I've noticed more colors that I've never noticed before. Colors that it's almost like an in-between of a green and an orange, which would normally, from an artist perspective, create sort of this muddy color. But it's almost like that sherbet color of the orange and the green, and they combine to create sort of a new color. It's hard to really describe it because I'm just beginning to notice it. But sometimes the sky's just filled with colors, iridescence all throughout the sky like I've never seen before. And you can almost miss it if you're not looking closely at it. And I think me and Chris talked about this before in one of our meetings. It's there and people just aren't noticing because it's so subtle, but if you just pay attention.
I'm so glad you both are bringing this up, because I've had dreams that seemed realer than real because the colors were so spectacular. And then I wake up and think, and then we've got this. And then I remember, but then I wonder, how come I can dream colors that I haven't seen in real life? And now we're getting these experiences with these animals. The squirrel is incredible. The hummingbird is amazing. Even the duck, it's outrageous. So I think all of these are just, like you said, indicating get ready for an expansion of the possibility in your waking life. It's really true.
So somebody let a kid have God's coloring book for a minute, and this is the outcome right here.
It is almost like, because you look at the rainbow eucalyptus trees that Cynthia brought up, and it's like, you always think of the leaves being colorful. You never really think of the bark part being colorful. It's either brown or rough or whatever. But this stuff, it's the bark. The actual bark has these beautiful color strips of color down through it. in a way that I never even expected, you know, and I would think I would have noticed that by now.
And don't you guys think, because I love children's books. I've had 2 daughters, and I was a kid once too. My mom was a kindergarten teacher. I know that if these things existed, there would have been children's books like The Rainbow World. And it would just show you, like, here are the rainbow mountains and hills, trees, animals, birds, you know, squirrels, all of this. And that there was no such thing. It seems like there was no opportunity for it, perhaps.
Well, I could totally see the Rainbow Grasshopper having his own kids book, like totally. How to respect others, you know. The Rainbow Grasshopper is you know, the ugly duckling, you know, type story. Okay, I'm going to go write this book real quick. I'll be back.
Yeah, you do that. We'll get a copy. It sounds fabulous. It sounds really good.
But you would think that these different, especially as a kid, you would think they would kind of show us that. Oh, wow. Woo, you know, even as adults, we're sitting there going, oh, wow.
Yeah, it's wow.
Well, how many of us colored in the trunk of a tree with all the wrong colors and like, no, honey, that's brown, you know?
It's
What
a
different
rainbow
childhood
eucalyptus.
we would have had, right?
Yeah.
Perhaps the stimulation is breaking down and we're seeing the pixels more clearly. The different colors are breaking down, right? What do you think about that idea?
Or it's getting better.
Or it's getting better.
Yeah.
Could be upgrading to the next level, right? Speaking of going to the next level, when we had the conference in 2019, by chance, we ended up going to the next level. We had a very special guest at that conference, a team of guests, as a matter of fact. We were joined by the team of HBO and How To with John Wilson specifically. If you guys have not seen that show, Chris, what episode number was that? Was it 3?
It was episode 3, called How to Improve Your Memory.
I think we got
I wish I would have watched it better. Maybe I would have remembered which episode number that was.
So Heather, if you go to not the next slide, but the slide after, is where we start talking about our review of How To with John Wilson. Yeah, there you go. Yeah.
So it was called How To with John Wilson, and he did come to the conference, and we had a great time. It's How to Improve Your Memory, episode 3. Now, there was a small distinction that came up between the team here. In the different advertising, we noticed that there was a discrepancy somewhere along the way, and some noticed that it went from, forgive me, I don't remember which way it went. One spelling was Jon, the other was John. Can somebody kind of review that and how that all went down? Because I remember it, but I was kind of on the edge. I really wasn't sure about that one.
Cynthia, you want to do that?
Yeah, well, when I first heard about this possibility that HBO would be there, I vaguely remember, I didn't remember all the names. That we got a list of all sorts of names. And I don't think I knew the name of the show. We just knew it was HBO. We saw a list of maybe 5 or 7 names, and one of them was John Wilson. Didn't stand out to me as like the guy that would be doing the show. But I remember the name John, Jon. So later, I think it was Chris that was mentioning, like, he was just sort of asking the question, does it seem odd to you that the spelling of the word John is different now? And yes, it did, because now it's just the regular spelling of John. And I don't think there was a typo in those original emails. I went back and looked at them. Now they all say John. I didn't see any that showed Jon, but that's a classic reality shift Mandela effect kind of a situation where often it's hard to find the evidence. You can sometimes find residue, but in this case, I didn't see any residue. I just saw it's all changed now to John. All I've got are my memories that I did see at one point that the name was Jon Wilson. So it's John Wilson with an H is kind of an ordinary name. It doesn't stand out so much. Jon did kind of stand out. Like, oh, I was wondering, who will this person be like? Will he be avant-garde, with the name Jon? So that's why it stood out for me.
Yeah, I was actually looking at some of the original emails, and I saw Jonathan Wilson listed. There was 6 or 7 people listed, and I saw Jon, John spelled out Jonathan. So who knows? It could be a Mandela effect. He might have wanted to change it for the purpose of the show to make it. I don't know, but I definitely remember him my interactions always being Jon,
Yes.
regardless if it's a Mandela effect or not.
Okay. Interesting.
Yes. So Heather, if you go to the next slide, you'll see like a behind the scenes. But if you look at this picture, it's probably really small for you guys. But walking in through the door in the center there is John Wilson, John Wilson. This is on November 8th. This is the first day of the show. It was approximately when it started around 4 o'clock. And actually, if you go to the next slide also, Heather, you'll see a little bit more of a close-up. Yeah, there he is.
There he is.
John walking in.
Holding his little camera and whatnot. And it was really slick. I can tell this now because it's already aired. We can actually talk a little bit about it. We didn't know at first that he was actually the host. We just thought he was a cameraman. He never presented himself like the host, anything. He just come up, with a camera, start talking. So you think you're just talking to the cameraman, which I think was a really slick way to do it, because people all want to try to impress the host. But if you don't know you're talking to the host to begin with, you're just being you. And that's exactly what he ends up catching in doing that. And I think that's a brilliant way that he went about it.
Yeah, I agree. It was cool. And you can see his personality in this photo. I know it's really tiny, but if you guys blow it up, you can see he just looks like he wandered into this conference and he's getting his bearings, like, where am I? What's going on here? And it's just such an open, like a childlike wonder sense that he brings. So I really appreciated that he's just open for the experience. And then when I did have an encounter with him, he zoomed in as I was talking. I think it was Eva, as I was talking with her about something. And so they picked that up on the show. And I didn't know he was the host of the show. Like Jerry just said, I thought he was just a regular cameraman. So it was a great way to get the real feeling of being there at the conference.
Yeah, same for me. And just the way he holds the camera, it's almost like he's doing a Jedi mind trick on you, because he holds it to his waist and he's got the viewfinder up so you can tell he's actually like looking at you. But like Jerry was saying, when he talks to you, you're waiting for the host to come. You don't realize that he's the host. You think he's just a camera person. So the whole time, so you're talking to him, you're very relaxed and comfortable, waiting for this John Wilson person to appear, and turns out he was the whole time.
There we go. That's a better picture right there. There we go.
Yeah.
That should be a little easier for our audience to see there, I do hope. We do apologize. Again, we are just working with this software for the first time, trying to figure it out. So we're just figuring out how it looks on the screen and everything. So do bear with us. We do appreciate it. So we had a great time. I know I had a great time interacting with them. They come and said they were filming a documentary. Now, this was a little controversial in the end, because we found out later that it was a comedy documentary, which caused a little bit of concern amongst the group.
A docu-comedy, I think they call it, right? A name I never even heard.
A docu-comedy, yes. But thing is, I'm a comedic guy myself. I love comedy. I do comedy. I try to keep it upbeat, jokative manner and form. So I understand that it can go both ways. Luckily, I think it went absolutely amazing. I think he used the comedy in such a way as to emphasize the Mandela effect, and not in such a way as to look at it in any negative light whatsoever. Would you guys agree with that?
Absolutely. Yeah, I think it was done with good-heartedness. So when it comes to comedy, there are different ways to do comedy, and some of them can feel less respectful. This didn't feel disrespectful to me. I felt like there was an honoring of, like I said, that childlike wonder that really came through the episode, especially at the ending, where I was just cheering, like, yay. I don't want to give it away for people that haven't seen it, but I think we'll talk about some of it today.
Best ending ever, just saying.
Yeah.
Yeah, I agree. Did you guys notice the music that's playing? I totally missed it the first time, but there's a song about the mirror that's playing while all that's going on.
About objects in the mirror. Objects in the mirror are closer than they appear.
Right.
Maybe closer. Yeah.
Right. And so they created that song special for that, I guess. Unless I don't know. I can't.
It was already That
No.
that song already exists. That
it
song
does?
is out
That's
there.
a
okay, okay.
1990s Meatloaf song. I had the CD when I was a kid. It's one of the first CDs that I got.
Okay, that's why it stuck out to you then. I'm familiar with Meatloaf, but not that particular song. So I thought that was neat. I thought it was like Cynthia said. I thought, you know, he could have like tried to poke fun or try to be disrespectful, and it wasn't like that at all. It was really good fun, and I could see where it could have gone bad, I guess, but it didn't. I was really very happy about it. I know it will about the Mandela effect, because it gave a lot of examples. I was really impressed that the way he edited it, he did a great job with making like Chris just seem like he was just like hitting him with a machine gun, you know, all of these, you know what I mean?
I was like,
Well, I know you were, but I'm just saying that it's
didn't
like
even show how many Mandela.
so many, right? He probably didn't even show all of them, did he?
No.
No, not at all.
But he showed a good
Well, I
portion.
will say, I like the fact that he showed the Mandela effect. He showed us, you know, he talked about it, but at the end, where most shows that mention it take that final twist at the end, you go, but psychologists say, or you know,
Yeah.
it never twisted. He said, all right, guys, look, here's this is what it is, and that was that. Period. That was that. And he had a lot of fun with it. Again, if you watch the end of the episode, he had a lot of fun with it. We all did.
Yeah, and if you think about it, like, do people really, can we actually think that they're going to create like a really big, legit documentary? I did, but now.
I was hoping that would have been nice.
But it's still got the message across. And what's interesting is that, I'll just say this too, people have been contacting me personally because they've been able to track down the speakers about the Mandela Effect Conference, because you showed the brochure on the air. So people have been able to go to the website, see who the speakers are, watch some of the videos. I've had people emailing me questions like, hey, I found out about you on the John Wilson show, blah, blah, blah. So yeah, so it's having an effect in ways that we probably couldn't even imagine. But it's just more kind of PR, bringing it to people's awareness, one more thing for them to think about. And I'm going to ask Heather to go on to the Febreze slide, which is like maybe two more. Because we'll talk about the ending of the show, right?
Yeah.
Yeah.
Because
it's too good not to. I mean, we can't pass that up. The ending was just totally classic, amazing.
So wonderful.
Yeah. So I'll talk a little bit about this, but basically, you know, one of the things I was going through, and I don't like doing brands a lot because, well, I'm dealing with brands all the time. But when we went into the supermarket, like I was showing him things like Febreze and Stovetop Stuffing. And what's interesting is that the manager at the Stop and Shop that we went to, like, she came out immediately. As soon as she saw a camera there, we were in the Haas avocado section at first. They came right over, the manager and someone else came right over, like, what are you doing? You're not allowed to film in the store. So John talked to them and, like, you know, got the permissions that he needed to do that. But and the manager was with us every step of the way. Everywhere we walked in the store, the manager was with us. And when we got to the Stovetop Stuffing part of the store, you know, it says Kraft on the box, but the manager of Stop and Shop is like, no, it's Kraft bought out Stouffer's. That's the reason. And I'm telling the manager, no, it's always been Stouffer's since 1971. And she's like, no, Kraft obviously just bought them out. So that's what my point is, that's what people think when they see these name changes, right? They're thinking it's just the brand change or someone bought them out or something like that. So at the end of the show, it was really cool because he was putting the labels the way we remember them on top of the actual products. Like the Febreze label was one with the 2 E's in Febreze instead of just the single.
He didn't just do it to one can, did he?
No, he had a whole bunch of stickers ready to go.
Yeah.
They did shelves worth of these cans, replacing the stickers from the Mandela affected modern way to the way we all remember them. Febreze, of course, as you see on the screen. But was Febreze the only one that you guys did?
No, go to the next slide, Heather.
Yeah, you remember Raisin Bran, right?
Yeah, I remember the sunglasses on the Raisin Bran Sun. And I guess probably he did too, because look, he got the exact right sunglasses to put on there.
They're just, see, that's the thing about this. How does he know exactly what kind to get? How do we all remember it exactly like
why
that?
do we always remember it the
Why? Why? Yeah, exactly. Why is it so specifically that? And that's another gem, another aspect of the Mandela effect that is just fascinating to me.
Yeah, that's
and
what
it just looks so right. When you see something that that looks like you remember, it just looks right, you know?
And the sunglasses really make it. Then it's perfect. It's like, finally, thank you. It's fixed.
Yeah, then he put him on like the Lucky Charms guy too.
See, and see that looks funny, but it doesn't look like what we remember. Then it's just goofing around.
Right, and that's where the humor came in. So it was good.
Yeah,
and it
that.
goes to show that, you know, sticking him on Lucky Charms, people aren't all of a sudden going to remember that Lucky Charm guy had sunglasses. You know what I mean? It looks wrong, opposed to what I was just saying here. It looks so right with the sun, but you put that on the Lucky Charms guy, it clearly and blatantly looks wrong.
Exactly. And that's noteworthy, totally noteworthy, because then why is it that we're remembering one thing but not the other? You know, what's going on there?
Absolutely.
Heather, go to the next slide. That's the stovetop stuffing one.
Next.
And this is like when people like, oh, you just are misremembering about stovetop stuffing. I'm like, how many people could just make up like a weird name like stovetop stuffing, right? You don't just like make that up. Like millions of people, I'm sure more than tens of millions of people, I'm sure remember Stofers.
I haven't run into anybody that doesn't remember stovetop stuffing. Every single person I've asked are like, yeah, of course. Who doesn't know about Stouffer's stovetop? In fact, Stouffer's, I wouldn't even know about Stouffer's, the company, if it weren't for the stovetop. For me, that's the only thing I know that Stouffer's even put out. So what are they doing now is my question.
So I can answer that question, actually. I can answer that question, and it goes back to what Chris was saying a moment ago about the manager's excuse, and it was clearly an excuse, and here's why, about Kraft buying them out. If you go to your frozen section of your local grocery store, you can find lasagnas and full-size family meals made by Stouffer's. Stouffer's is still a company. So it's not like they were bought out and changed over to Kraft. That's not the case. And once again, when you see these Stouffer's on the box, it looks right. One more thing while I have the mic. My cousin, just a couple weeks ago, funniest things happened to me in a while. He's been watching my shows, and he went back and watched. I can't remember if it was the Thanksgiving or Christmas show, but one of them, I think it was the Thanksgiving show, I mentioned the Stovetop Stuffing Mandela effect, the Stouffer's. He wrote me after watching that email, quite a long email. Hey, cuz, I've been on the fence about the Mandela effect for a while, you know. It's kind of, I don't know. But, dude, you've got to make some time to talk to me. Yeah, I've been watching your show, and you've got me. I know it was Stouffer's Stovetop Stuffing. Are you kidding me? We ate that all the time. Every year, that's what we made. I mean, he was losing his mind over this. That is the one that has grabbed him and pulled him over the fence into the Mandela effect 100%. So that's just another example of someone that remembers it the way we do.
Yeah, and I just want to add to this conversation about stovetop stuffing, you know, reading into Mandela effects. I call this, and again, this is my hypothesis, is that it's a timeline brand takeover. And I'm going to create a video that explores this in more detail, but it has to do with taking the light of from families that are together celebrating Thanksgiving, which is a very interesting concept. But basically, so when families get together for Thanksgiving, you know, they can get their turkey from someplace, their cranberry sauce from someplace else, their whatever it is, mac and cheese. But usually stuffing is a constant that's on all the Thanksgiving dinner tables. And Stovetop happens to have that market. So there was actually another purpose for that. It has to do with non-GMO foods. It has to do with frequency, because we're frequency, food is frequency, everything is frequency. But there's a lot to read into this. And I'm going to, like, in the future video, I'm going to like really break it down and go into it, because I think it's really important.
I look forward to that, because you kind of touched on that in your original talk in 2019 at the conference, right?
I think
Yes.
I might have said a little bit about it. Yeah.
Yeah, you totally did. And you mentioned it was. Yeah, exactly.
Yes. So then something that just happened recently, and we can go to the next slide if that's cool, Heather. The Jimmy Kimmel show.
Yeah.
Oh, yes. So I have a coworker here. Matter of fact, she was on the show too. The one that behind the desk at the hotel that was with me, in the show. And they asked her a couple of questions, and they actually put it on the show. She sent me this earlier today, this whole interview of John Wilson here on Jimmy Kimmel, and I was really, really mind-boggled.
Yes, it was really interesting. I don't know if we're prepared to play a clip of it. Is that something we could do, Heather? You have that link?
So by copyright fair use, we get 30 seconds of any content whatsoever to use as we see fit without any penalties. So with that disclaimer said, ladies and gentlemen, Heather, if you don't mind,
we got to
please.
keep it under 30 seconds, right?
Well, here's the thing. Before you start this, Heather, start it around the 7-minute mark, because the total video is 8 minutes, but he doesn't really get into it that much for the Mandela Effect Conference until about the 7-minute mark.
Okay, the guy you meet in the supermarket, who then takes, who then you learn has this amazing, and we don't have time to get into it, but people must watch this episode where he speaks about the Mandela effect, which is, again, will take too long to explain, and you wind up going to Idaho to a convention that it seems to be running. Was he just in the supermarket?
Yeah, I mean, he was in the Stop and Shop, and I had no idea about the Mandela Effect Conference. These are the moments I live for, and this is why I make this kind of work.
And that, ladies and gentlemen, happened, 2-3 nights ago, right? Very recently?
It was definitely within the last, I think it might have aired like 4 or 5 days ago. Recent.
Yeah.
Yes. So, and I thought it was really cool how Jimmy Kimmel said, you should watch this show. And it looked like he wanted to try to explain the Mandela effect himself, but it's too complicated to explain here. But
the fact that he knows it's too complicated, he's clearly done his research into it. And that just goes to show there are a lot more than just us, quote unquote, average Joes that are looking into this. It's like everything else, like UFOs and anything. It don't care if you're rich or celebrity or barely making it by, you're going to be affected if you're affected, right? So there's people at all levels that are affected. Go ahead, Cynthia.
Yeah, I got to talk. This is amazing. In the last, I've been researching this for more than 20 years. This last month, this February 2021, is the first time ever that people are giving me their full names when they report Mandela effects and reality shifts through my newsletter. They're saying, yeah, put my email, put my full name, put a picture of me. Yeah, I want everybody to know. I want people to contact me. And I've been studying this since the 1990s. This is huge that we're getting to that point where people, because in the past, when I'd hear from someone who's a doctor, lawyer, airplane pilot, any profession where they felt like, oh my gosh, I can't let people know about this, they would say, just use my first name only. And then I would beg them, please let me get your city and state or location, because I'm tracking it for more than 20 years, month by month, by location, like the type of reality shift. I question back and forth with them. When these firsthand reports come in, it's very important. But I just want to say that this is huge. And I agree with everything you're saying, Jerry. And thank you so much, Chris, for making that connection in the grocery store with John Wilson, because that kicked it all off. And then next thing you know, we're on Jimmy Kimmel. That's all of the Mandela Effect community. It's not just us at IMEC. When this is happening, it's a win for everybody that's experienced this for decades. This does go back a ways.
It's being taken seriously in a mainstream thing without the sneering and snarling and he-and debunking and anything like that. We're actually seeing it being taken seriously, at least to a degree. Now, there are some we've seen in the past that haven't, but recently we really haven't. It's becoming a mainstream thing, something everybody knows about. And that's amazing that just this year people are finally, after 20 years, bold enough to say, yeah, I'm experiencing this. I mean, after 2020, I think crazy's done gone out the window anyway. That's a whole new relativity to that term, but that's so amazing.
Very funny. Very true.
Well, you've been noticing that. I know, Jerry, you work with all sorts of conspiracies and stuff, and people are just more open-minded in general across the board, doesn't it seem like that? I know with my personal interactions with like family, my sister, for instance, you know, she told me about the movie. She goes, hey, this is, and then she told me about this other thing. You think it could be a Mandela effect? So it's like at one point, everybody was sort of like, they didn't even want to hear about it, but now it's like it's happening. They believe it's happening on some sort.
Well,
or something.
in the last year, we've had more conspiracy theories guaranteed to be not conspiracy theory anymore, but actually validated as truth than we've had in a long time. Right now, conspiracy theorists look like the smartest guys on the block. We were right about UFOs. We were right about most of the political government stuff. We were right about a lot of the cover-ups back in the day. If you look at all the and I'm going to do a show about this tomorrow night, as a matter of fact. Lately, we've had like validation after validation after validation. So, I mean, people are looking around going, wait a minute. Maybe they are onto something. Now they're more open-minded. Now they're seeing the stuff they ridiculed. Now they need to think twice about ridiculing things because they might not be as crazy as it sounds on the surface, you know? And I am seeing that with a lot more of the population. Would you agree, Chris?
Yeah, definitely. And to add to all this too, there's a movie coming out, or it's already been out, it's from Sundance, called A Glitch in the Matrix. And you'll be able.
Is it out already?
February 5th is when you'll be able to like watch it on, I don't even know where you can watch it, but it's a documentary on simulation theory. Not many worlds, but the simulation theory. And when they started making this about a year ago, they contacted me because they wanted to use a snippet from the original video that I created about the Mandela effect in my business, and I was affecting my clients. And I told them yes. So there'll be yet something else where you might see my face pop up. It's funny, I would have never expected this of myself, like just going back a few years ago.
But they just asked to use your stuff, right? You didn't go into a sound studio and do no acting or anything. They just asked to use pre-made clips you already had online or something.
Yeah, and they were specific, just the original video that I made. So I figured I made the video unless they do something to make it seem weird. I mean, I haven't seen the movie yet, but I did give them my permission.
Right. I just don't want people to say, "Oh, look, he's a Hollywood actor." You know, I just want to make sure we clarify.
Yeah, no, not yet. Not yet, anyway. But yes. So something else coming up.
You need to get your IMDb page all lined up. Huh?
Right, you're in 2 different shows now.
Yeah, and didn't they, if I remember right, the Mandela Effect movie, wasn't Moneybags in that one, or didn't they use some of his stuff?
They used a piece of audio, a small snippet of audio from Moneybags. I don't think they showed him on screen, but I know they used a snippet of his audio.
Yes,
and I'm looking forward to seeing that Glitch in the Matrix movie. I've seen a couple commercials for that. That looks really intriguing. Everybody knows I've made no 2 ways about I'm not a fan of simulation theory by any means, but I'm open to the idea, and I really am excited to see how they portray this in this documentary. It's really interesting to me.
Yeah, I'm glad you brought that up about how we feel about these things, because that matters. And when I look at transhumanism and this whole thing of uploading our consciousness to the cloud and then everything's a simulation, that's not where I personally would like to be going with our future. For our children, for our future generations, to me, it's much more a matter of getting back to reverence, to living, life the way that humans can best develop our own internal gifts and skills, and working directly with Cosmic Mind that way. So I've coined this term Rev Humanism to be an alternative to transhumanism. And so that's where I just want to make that point. So when people look at the simulation theory, it can get freaky, and they can start thinking if everything's fake, then I get these questions all the time in my email. People ask, if I make a quantum jump, what happens to my wife, my kids, my friends? They're freaked out. So I think if we get back to the Rev Humanism, to the connection with nature, then we're not way off track the way we can easily go if you get too far down that, that other rabbit trail.
I like that. An alternate to transhumanism, a reverse, a Rev Humanism. We need to start backing that. We need a new campaign going. I like that a lot. Rev Humanism, guys. Check it out. Run with it, guys. Rev Humanism. You heard it here first.
And I've got a video describing it on my channel, on YouTube, so you can look up Rev Humanism, REV, and then Humanism. So yeah.
So one question I would like to pose to the team here. Spending the time we did with John Wilson and the team that they brought down, it was amazing time. They were really great people, really nice, really respectful. I had a blast. And I'm going to come to myself last, but Cynthia, and then we'll just kind of go a ring around the rosy here. What was your favorite part of that experience working with them and just the conference and all that? What was your favorite part of that?
There was a magical moment for me because I had brought just a few little goodies for those of us that were speakers, and it was a small event anyway, but we felt like family. And even before we got together, I felt like family. So I'd made these little bags that just had the logo for that first conference that Chris had designed and helped make possible. And anyway, I brought one of those. I just got this impression, a very clear, intuitive knowing, bring a bag, you're going to give it to someone today. I thought, okay. It was my bag. I didn't bring an extra one. Like, okay, I'll give mine away. Okay, but who and what? And then I saw this beautiful person. She was part of the team that was there with John Wilson, and I just knew it was her. And I just showed it to her. Would you like this? What's amazing is that was captured, I think, on Shane's. So I think you did a video, Shane, and in the background, you can actually see the footage of me in that moment saying, would you like this? And she said yes. And I handed it to her, and she just hugged it like a teddy bear, like it meant the world to her. And that was the feeling I got from interacting with that crew who couldn't tell us very much. They were very hush-hush about what they're doing. But in that moment, I felt like, okay, these guys get the Mandela effect on a very deep level. This is meaningful to them. And it was a really special moment for me.
That is so heartwarming. And the fact that Shane caught it on film accidentally, that's even better. Like,
Shane's incredible. I mean, Shane, yeah, he also caught that footage of John Wilson. He's the photographer, walking into the room.
When it comes to this team, we're very serendipitous. It really is. Things happen just so intriguingly, magically, we can't even explain them if we wanted to. And it's happened a multitude of times. Shane, what was your favorite experience of that?
Well, as far as the John Wilson, they were sort of kind of, I don't know, they blended in with, Heather and her crew to me. They were just another cameraman. I sort of just didn't even notice them, like you guys were saying. They were just sort of... I think that was part of the strength for collecting such, great footage, is that it doesn't feel like you're being recorded. And I never got to sit down with them. I ran into them at the store next door, and we said we'd maybe sit down and do an interview later, but it just never happened. We just had so much going on. And like I said, I didn't really know until later who they even were, and after watching the show and then sort of realizing the overall picture of it and then looking back through my footage. So part of it was just seeing, he photobombed, I don't know how many, on accident, he'd walk in and kind of look surprised and have that look on his face, really, he's really a pretty funny guy. And, I kept being like, who's this guy that keeps photobombing all my pictures? And, he's kind of got that Where's Waldo look on his face.
If you watch his shows, his other shows besides ours, I guess he photobombs MTV a couple times.
Oh yeah, so funny. And they're asking him, "Sir, could you please sit down? Like you're wrecking our footage." Yeah, he's so charming. It is funny.
Yeah, I love that particular
clip.
He's got
an awkwardness about him that's just really cool. Yeah. What's that, Shane?
Where he's in the middle of all of the dancers on MTV music videos, something, and everybody's this young people in all these bathing suits and stuff, and he's fully dressed right in the middle of them, not moving, holding his camera, looking really awkward. It was really funny. That was a different episode. I think that was the first episode.
One of my favorite scenes from the whole first or second. I think it was the first. It was still one of my favorite scenes from the whole series, including the one we're in. That's still one of my favorite scenes where he's standing in the crowd just. It's great. And you're not seeing him. You're seeing MTV's camera looking down on him.
Hey, but Jerry, what about your favorite scene, Jerry? Because I loved when he was standing next to you and you're saying, what about this mirror, the side view mirror on the car? I love that. That was gold.
So my favorite part, we're walking down the street. He's got the camera rolling. We're talking. And I just got this thought, hey, man, are you Mandela affected? Straight up, are you affected or not? Yeah, I very much am. Okay, well, what's your number one effect? Like everybody's got that one that grabbed him. What's yours? He said the rear view mirror one. Objects in the rear view mirror. Oh, really? Okay, so we went into the parking lot we were right in front of, and start pointing out car windows. We're going into all these different random cars. Have no clue who these cars belong to at all, and we're pointing at rear view mirrors. Going, hey, look here, look here. This says this. He's like, that's not how I remember it. So, yeah, I actually got him to admit on film, and he did put it in the show, him admitting he is Mandela affected. That's one of my favorite parts right there. I got him to admit it on camera. Go me. That is my favorite part of the whole thing, personally.
Absolutely.
Little biased, but you know.
I wanted to clarify for those who might not know about that particular Mandela effect. So people remember it originally being objects and mirror may be closer than they appear. But now it's objects and mirror are closer than they appear. So the maybe disappeared.
Show of hands, if you remember it the old way. Objects in mirror may be closer. Yeah, all of us are affected. Yeah.
They appear closer than they are. Sorry, I don't want to make your ears bleed. I won't sing anymore, I promise.
Now, does he sing it the new way or the old way in the Meatloaf song?
The old way.
Well, let's go to Chris.
That's the name of the song.
I want to hear from Chris the same question that you were asking Jerry about favorite memory from HBO.
What was your favorite part, Chris, of the experience working with? And you got to work with John Wilson a little more than us at the conference. Yeah. You actually with the Stop and Shop and that. Yeah. So, what was your favorite experience of working with them?
You know, it's funny because as you were talking, like when he was at my office, he was telling me the same thing about the objects in mirror. So there was one point when I got my car, he wanted to ride with me in my car to the supermarket. So he wanted to see it on he wanted to see if it was on my side mirrors. And guess what? My side mirrors say nothing. There's no writing at all. It seems like on new cars, they're just taking the right. It doesn't say it at all anymore. So we were both kind of confused. We're like, where's the statement? It's not there anymore. So. But yeah, it was all.
That's what we get for calling them out, right?
I was amazed about, like, I thought we were going to get kicked out of that grocery store. Like, I really did. She was not taking anybody's BS. She's like, camera out of here. This is not allowed. You can't be taking pictures of Haas avocados, blah, blah, blah. He was able to convince her. I couldn't even believe it. So, yeah, so he had some skills with that. So I definitely appreciate that. If it was me, I would have
avocado. HAAS or HASS? What do you guys remember? Double A or double S?
Show of hands for a double A. Yeah.
I think we're all in majority. There's no need to show of hands opposing. All right.
Yeah, and you know, I was actually reading a book not too long ago. I can't even remember what the book was, but I sent a screen grab to Chris because I'm like, look, he wrote it the old way. You know, Haas avocados right here in the book. So you'll find it where people remember it the other way. But, you know, and I notice a lot in lyrics of songs is another place that you'll notice. You know, if they mention a product or something that's changed, you might just find it in the original way. So that's a good place.
Yeah.
Residue hunting tips. Yeah, that's a good one.
Now, when it comes to residue hunting, definitely anything that is, this is weird. I won't say anything. The majority of stuff that we find in residue is something people have drawn or put their conscious intent into that seems to hold it into place, for lack of a better term, with these shifts. You know what I mean? Have you guys found this to be true too, or am I just a little goofy on that one?
Yeah, I have found that to be true. I'm not a residue hunter per se, but it does seem like when I find it, that's the case. It was someone's work of art. Like, you know, the JFK car, you'll see a model that was created according to the way people remember the original Zapruder tape and that kind of thing. Yeah.
Yeah, or you see, like, you can, for Halloween, buy the Richard Simmons, like, costume, and it comes with a headband. Like, so somebody's remembering that, right?
Right.
Speaking of remembering, before we forget, we need to jump into the meat of our episode here, because it wasn't just John Wilson that we had to talk about. There's another phenomenon that showed up over, the last 6 months or so, maybe a little less than 6 months. Chris, you want to fill us in on this phenomenon that has been occurring recently?
Yes. Heather, our great producer, can you move to the next slide? The golden timeline. Bum, 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 bum. Okay. The silver monoliths I think probably everyone watching has heard of the silver monoliths. The first one appeared in Utah on November 18th, 2020. I think we're all familiar with that one. A second one appeared on November 27th in Romania. A third one appeared on December 5th on the Isle of Wight. A fourth one appeared in Belgium, a fifth one in Spain, and a sixth one in Germany. And there were at least 6 of these silver monoliths. There's at least 6 of them. So you guys all remember the silver monoliths, right?
Yes, absolutely. Yes. It was a big deal. It was showing up on the nightly news. Mainstream media was picking it up. It was a big deal. It's kind of like, look, here's the next one. And it was a welcome break from the bad news.
Right. And they never caught anybody or showed anyone ever bringing them or taking them, or they just kind of appeared and then disappeared, right?
That's right. Yeah.
Exactly. But do you remember, if we go to the next slide, do you remember the gold monolith? See, now this blew me away because I just discovered the gold monolith very recently. I'm actually one of the videos that I just recently filmed covers this part. I'm actually, for those of you that have been following my Symphony of Realities videos, just to give you a little bit of background, I've created an intermission. I call it Fringe Intermission, from that show Fringe with Dr. Walter Bishop and his son Peter and Olivia. It ran from like 2008 to 2013, something like that. So it's the Fringe Intermission. And this is one of the things I cover in there, but am I the only one that the gold monolith is new to them?
No, that's totally new.
I do remember the golden monolith showing up, as I said when we discussed this before. It is something that I remember now. It was odd, and we never heard anything else about it. I just heard, hey, there was one found, and like I said, I never heard another word. So you've got more information here about it than I even had.
Yeah, so it was discovered in Colombia. And, I'll just say right off the bat, how do you spell Colombia? Is it C-O-L-U or C-O-L-O? So that's a whole other Mandela effect thing to talk about. But basically, it was discovered, I believe, around December 9th of 2020. It was discovered in Che, I believe I'm pronouncing that right, in Colombia, which is a city, which means City of the Moon, which is interesting because in that movie, 2001: A Space Odyssey, the second monolith that's shown in that movie was discovered on the moon. And it was a monolith that showed, because it was discovered on the moon, it showed that humanity was entering the space age, so to speak. We're ready to remember that. So yeah, for myself, this was a really big, for me, it was a Mandela effect. Like I found out about it like literally a couple of weeks ago. I thought I would have heard of it before. So yeah, so what does it mean? But do you guys have any other comments about the gold monolith?
I'm right with you, Christopher. It's brand new to me. I didn't hear about it back when it popped up. It kind of popped up recently for me as well. Sorry to cut you off, Jerry.
Oh, no, I'm sorry. I didn't give you time to answer there. The City of the Moon part is what intrigues me. I didn't know that beforehand. It's of course, in the movie 2001, it's got the monoliths, and that's what everybody referenced when these first showed up. But that's interesting that where it was specifically in Colombia meant City of the Moon, and it was the golden monolith. That's intriguing.
Yeah, and if we go on, Heather, if you go on to the next slide, I just have some comments there. So the gold monolith, man-made, I think it's pretty obvious that they're man-made, right? There's also a question of time traveler influence, which is something that I talk about, where you could influence a future version of yourself, could influence a current version of yourself, so to speak. It's another way of looking at another way of doing time travel, so to speak. Not actual time travel, but influencing. And it appears that the placement of these monoliths, the people that did it, either understood grid lines and ley lines, or another part of their awareness did, at least from the places that they were actually located in. And so the hypothesis that I draw from this, and you guys can comment on this as well, is I consider these monoliths signposts or marker stones. So let's say you are a time traveler and you're trying to find the right timeline to get to, we'll call it the golden timeline. You could have like these monoliths appear, like, oh, these silver monoliths have appeared. I'm on the right path. And then when you see the golden one appear, like then you know, like you have at least, you're on that path, so to speak, to the golden timeline. So that's what I was getting out of it. And I wanted to see if you guys had any thoughts that you wanted to share about that.
Yeah, I kind of dropped out. Now I'm back in, and I've got a technical issue. So sorry about this. I don't know how to. Anyway,
Thing happened to me too. Yeah, I got the blue screen of death, they call it, where my computer just went blue and completely crashed earlier. So that's why it disappeared. But retrograde, Mercury retrograde.
It is. Yeah. But anyway, this is a great question. I love this topic. And to me, it was really new that the gold monolith showed up. I like that train of thought that this may indicate that we're going from silver to gold, or that just the fact that gold is there, to me, is a very positive message. I take it very positively. And I don't know what else to make of it. But when we combine that with the rainbow phenomenon of rainbow trees, rainbow hills, mountains, rivers, animals, and then we've got this gold monolith, I think the combination is showing that there's a good feeling here, that even in the midst of all the chaos that may seem like is happening worldwide, that there is definitely, it's like that rainbow, it's that feeling of hope. And I think that's the message of the rainbow, is that things are not as bad as they might seem, and it's not the end of the world, or it may seem like it sometimes, but I think the gold timeline is really showing that as well. Like, don't feel like it's ever too late. And that's the big message for me from the Mandela effect. If the past can change the way we see it doing, then you don't ever need to feel like it's too late to make an effect, to make a difference. And that's what I love about what you're saying, Chris, about the timelines and about the awareness that we can have of bringing our own vote into the timelines of the future. And that ties in with, again, Rev Humanism, just accessing human technology that's intrinsic to us and our connection to the cosmos.
I wanted to bring up two other gold things, Mandela effects. That is C-3PO's leg that turned silver. That's another gold to silver, having to do with gold. And then for a lot of people, there's the Robert Frost poem that was quoted in The Outsiders, which people remembered it as "Stay Golden."
Yes. Yeah.
And it's "Stay Gold." So people remember it as golden and gold, but now it's currently gold. So if you remember it as "Stay Golden," then for me it was "Stay Gold," but I watched it more recently, and you know how that's strange, the way that you can almost overwrite the memory. So if you don't know about the Mandela effect, you remember it as a kid, and then you watch the movie and you're like, oh, I must have just remembered that wrong. And then you don't really think much about it, and it's almost subconscious. Your brain just overwrites it. And I think that's what I noticed about my daughters working in a store. They wouldn't notice a lot of the cereal box changes and things like that, because I think subconsciously you walk by them, you see them a certain way, and you're not really thinking about it, but you are overwriting the memory. Your brain just subconsciously
just
sees
by being
Fruit Loops
exposed to
spelled
it
wrong. Yeah, exactly. Yeah.
Well, I like what they say over here in chat. Eileen Colts 1 said, entering the golden age. And we do know we've entered the age of Aquarius. I think everybody astrologically is even agreeing with that last square that we had just a couple weeks ago, that we are into the age of Aquarius now, which could be the new golden age, the age of knowledge, the age of knowing, the golden timeline. Things right now, I'll be honest with you, looking around, they look a little weird. Okay, they look really weird and strange in what's going on in the world. But remember, you have to have bad every now and then to appreciate the good. So it could be headed toward the golden timeline. And what we're seeing right now could be what it needs to happen to roll out what needs to happen later to become the golden timeline, to get rid of these things that are emerging as problems, so we can see the problems so that they can be dealt with accordingly. That's just my take on it. I don't want to get political or anything like that. I want to get too specific, but we could be headed down this golden timeline, as you guys were saying.
Yeah, Eileen's pointing out that 5 gold rings in the Christmas song now instead of golden rings. That's interesting. I think I remember 5 golden rings. Now it's 5 gold rings. I don't know. It's like that 5 roast beef sandwiches sort of overwrote
that. Somebody's been thinking about Arby's a little bit too much.
Yeah. I remember 5 golden rings too. That's interesting.
Yeah, golden.
Good catch.
I didn't know about that one. Thank you, Eileen.
Yeah, it's new.
A lot of the Christmas ones are kind of weird because like, I don't know, the Christmas before last I saw a bunch, and then this Christmas swung around. I went to bring them up and they weren't there anymore. And it's like, oh, I guess you should really check these before you start, spouting them off again.
Well, let's back up here a little bit. And with this golden timeline, you have on the page here grid lines and ley lines. Do you guys think that they could be specifically placed, some of these things, to do with the ley lines and grid lines, and it could have some effect on whether humanity or shifts, or like Chris was suggesting, that it could be markers for timelines themselves, or how do you think ley lines plays into this?
Yes, so they're definitely energy centers, and I know that a lot of times when you have a monolith or something like an obelisk, so like from Egypt, you have the obelisks that were placed in specific locations. The Washington Monument in Washington D.C., that's an example of an obelisk. And a monolith and an obelisk, they're pretty similar. I think the main difference is that an obelisk has more of a pyramid shape to the top, where a monolith is more flat. But usually they're placed in a location to amplify energy that's in the area, or do something with the energy, and that's what it appears to be. Why placed in that part in Utah all by itself? That unless those Park Service guys spotted it, who knows how long it could have been there for. So yeah, it seemed to be like on specific locations like that.
And we found them in Romania and Colombia and different locations, as you've noted. And it could have something to do with equalizing the Earth energies. And the one golden one, maybe that's the one trigger point for the rest of the silver one. I'm just talking off the top of my head right now. But anybody else got anything they want to say about that?
I would like to talk about consciousness. Maybe, the way we're finding out just how effective consciousness is. Could they have just been placed there just to get the collective to focus on it, to do something? Could this be a possibility to explore? They meaning I don't know who.
Right, they being
anybody,
the royal they, right?
Well, even there are space theys or anything, But they do have rivets and stuff. They look man-made, correct?
Yeah.
But they could have been made to look man-made too,
Well, I would like to say for any time travelers that are watching this, if you can at least start by finding the Tiger King timeline, because that was definitely some kind of a timeline where that Tiger King show became popular. That connects into the Silver Monolith timeline, and then that connects into the Golden timeline. So follow that path, and you should look for the Tiger King. But
it could have to do with reasserting the Earth energies also to move us into what is going to be this golden timeline. I have noticed people becoming more aware and more knowledgeable and more open to, and we were speaking about this earlier with even the Mandela effect, more open to being, I want my name on this now. I want to be known as the one that said this. You were speaking of earlier, Cynthia. So I do see a growth in humanity, a growth in knowledge, a growth in the ability to see through the veil that's been pulled over our eyes for so long. Would you agree with that?
Absolutely. Yeah, I think that's the key with the monoliths. Is it's an art, to me, art installation that was happening globally, and it was the fun sense of like, here's something to take our mind off of everything else and focus hopefully on something positive. And I thought that was brilliant. So even if you just take it down to the lowest level and say, oh, it's just artists doing this, it's still pretty fabulous because it does exactly that. It gets our attention focused in an upward direction and wondering what else is possible. What does this mean? And the fact that there's nothing on it, it's just a monolith. I don't think there are any symbols or words. That's interesting too. The lack of a message is the message. So it's basically tabula rasa. It's kind of like carpe diem, seize the day, make it what you would like it to be. So it's a it's almost the best statement of all, which is, I love to ask, how good can it get? That's what it feels like to me. It's like it's asking, so what would you like to put on this? And when you are the creator, that's the kind of good question that you want to start asking.
The how good can it get path, which actually we can go to the next screen.
Well, before we do, Shane, I had a question for you. When these showed up, were you noticing any correlations with shifts, Mandela effect shifts, or with them like popping up at different times? Did you see anything like that, or?
Man, it's just so hard to know, because whenever you notice something, you don't know if it's just changed now, or because it seems like, I'm late to the party with a lot of them, or it's just the other way around. People are like, oh my gosh, did you hear that, the Flintstones changed? I'm like, man, that was like 3 years for me, and it's, so I don't know, man. Time is definitely wonky when it comes to these shifts. It doesn't seem like everybody experiences them at the same time. It seems like I don't know, it's just very fluid and dynamic in my research.
Well, David Morris here in the chat brings up something really interesting, and it goes back to where we started with the rainbow animals. He said a QHHT session says that the monoliths have been here, but only appear when Earth raises its vibration in those areas. And it goes back to the question I asked earlier: were these creatures always these colors, and are we now just having the ability to see them? Were the monoliths always there? We just now are having the ability to visually see them.
Good question.
I think when it comes to like what we can look and verify in history, most of what I've looked into looks like it's sort of always been there. I mean, nothing's sort of popped on the scene, because my first thought, even before the Mandela effect, it's easier to think maybe somebody was playing around with DNA manipulation, CRISPR, that sort of thing, and just maybe playing around and like, let's see what these colors on a squirrel will look like or something. But no, you a hippie with the CRISPR machine, right?
That's a dangerous thought, I tell you.
A beautiful, colorful world, right? But yeah, if you
walking
can
around with
imagine,
tie-dye skin in here a couple months.
right? So, yeah, I think when you look into something like that's how it was with the Rainbow Mountains. I looked, they'd always been there. And then when 3 more locations popped up a month later, they had always been there, even a month earlier when I looked, supposedly, right? So something's really wonky with the way time works. And there really is only now in our observation of what we think of as the past in the now moment, right?
I think you're onto a good question, though, Jerry. Have they always been here? Because it is almost like there's a dimensional shift that can happen, and then suddenly we're capable of seeing things that we didn't see before. So it could be an evolutionary change occurring. It's a really interesting, thought-provoking question.
I agree. What do you think, Chris?
Yeah, I'll even go one step further with that. Again, like talking about like rising of the frequency and the vibrations. I think there'll even be like archaeology discoveries that are made. Think about like Atlantis or something that's always been there. We just didn't look close enough. Now all of a sudden we've just discovered it. And things like Camelot or Avalon or the days of King Arthur, like those type of things. Oh, that's mythical. I think there's going to be things that start to come into our reality and show that there was actually such a thing as the Knights of the Round Table and all the adventures that they went on and so forth. So yeah, I think it's all going to start coming back to us as it should, just because the frequency is going up.
And Merlin out there with a wand moving Stonehenge blocks around, right? It's one of my favorite stories. According to them, he asked a bunch of giants to help him move it from Ireland to England. Stonehenge. No joke. Merlin was behind that, according to lore, Heather, could we go ahead and get that other slide up, that next slide? Shane, you were going somewhere with that, sir?
Oh, it was just pertaining to the gold monolith. I thought we could have it on the screen while we were talking about following the path and all of that.
Follow the yellow brick road.
Yeah, so here's an interesting concept. If you kind of like liken it to the Wizard of Oz, and by the way, the Wizard of Oz, that's so prolific. That movie, I mean, not just the Mandela effects, but all of the teaching things, that Dorothy experienced, and was it a dream, and, going to the land of Oz, and what exactly happened and all that. I find that really fascinating. But the first thing I thought of when I saw the gold monolith was follow the yellow brick road. Like here's the path. Now, it doesn't mean that the easy work is over. It's like, oh yeah, we found the yellow brick road, or we found a marker stone for the golden timeline. But just like with Dorothy and her Toto and her friends, their adventures began when they got onto the yellow brick road. And there are a lot of things that caused them to, like, you know, maybe turn away between flying monkeys and poppy flowers that would make them, you know, go, you know, the Wicked Witch of the West, you know, whatever the situation was. So to me, I think my viewpoint is that it's all very positive, but we're just at the beginning. We found the path. Now we got to walk it, so to speak. And it could be easy to go off the path, but we want to stay on it.
I like that. Like you said, the adventure didn't begin until they found the yellow brick road. And it goes back to what I was saying earlier. It looks crazy out there right now. And crazy being relative compared to 2020. But it looks absolutely crazy out there right now. But it could be that beginning of that yellow brick road, that one of many challenges that we're going to have to overcome, that hero's journey, if you will, as Cynthia spoke about in the first conference, Campbell's hero's journey, that is going to allow us to overcome these different obstacles down the yellow brick road and end up in the amazing golden timeline. That's interesting.
By the way, when you look at this picture of Dorothy and the red shoes that she's wearing, her socks here are white, right? A lot of people remember her socks being white. This is just a small Mandela effect. But when you watch the movie, her socks are blue now. So, and this is an artist's representation of the Wizard of Oz. But it's like no matter where you look, there's Mandela effects. You just have to look a little bit more closely, and it's like, wait, that wasn't the way it was before.
These are exactly how I remember it, actually, because now I think there's like a black bow on the
right around the top of it, yeah.
Yeah, and I didn't remember that. I remember them being all emerald, or not emerald, but ruby like this, in the white socks, not blue socks.
Yeah.
Well, it is intriguing with the amount of Mandela effects that are in the Wizard of Oz, right?
Yeah, so many.
Yeah, can we name some of them, if you guys know right off?
I know.
Well,
go ahead.
Like Fly My Pretties Fly, that one came up. I think Moneybags brought it up with AJ on the Mandela Monthly show. I remember that. Do you remember that?
Yeah, right now it's just fly, fly, fly or something. Right.
Right. Now it's just fly, fly, fly.
Fly, fly, fly. Get the girl. Fly, fly.
Doesn't sound right.
Not at all. The Scarecrow carrying a gun.
Yeah, that's kind of weird. I don't remember that either. It seems like it's inappropriate for a children's show. You know, it's like, what is going on here? It seems like that would have been something that people would have been aware of before. I don't remember that. The gun.
A lot of people don't remember him brandishing a weapon, considering he's not
the brightest.
Yes.
He's not the sharpest tool in the shed. Yeah, you don't want to hand the weapon to that one. Yeah, you're right.
The guy in search of a brain, right? Oh, another one I wanted to bring out. Another one I wanted to bring out that just came to mind was some people remember tap your heels together 3 times. Some people remember click your heels together 3 times.
I remember, I remember click.
Click?
Yeah, click.
Yeah, because like it's not like tap dancing, right? Tapping them together.
Not tapping.
But that was the interesting thing that I had pointed out before, is that we've gone from an era of mainly clicking on the computer to mainly tapping on our handheld devices with touch screens. And so it seemed to sort of mirror our interactions with computers going from clicking to tapping. I just noticed that, you know what I mean?
Right.
Because it's currently tapping your heels together 3 times, not clicking.
Is it really?
Yeah.
Well, there you go, ladies and gentlemen. Another one I remember
You
clicking.
didn't know that one?
There you. As a matter of fact, Laura Lee in chat remembers clicking. One Eileen Colts remembers clicking. Ladies and
I
gentlemen,
haven't checked in a few
turns out
months,
we are
so
all wrong.
it used to be.
and
It's flip-flopped if it's not.
You know what?
But I talked about that with the clicking. I think I did at the conference. Don't you guys remember?
Click, tap,
Yeah.
click, tap, click.
Yeah, you know what else too? If you're observant, so like one of the last scenes in The Wizard of Oz is with the horses, and they were different colors. And I remember that as a kid, like watching it, like because they would have the horses as they were marching around, like they would actually be changing color. I remember like, wow, how do they make it change color? And now in this version, when you watch it, the horses are a much brighter color, but it's a stop. Like you could tell, like they stopped the camera. It's a different angle, and then it's like, so it didn't have the fade that it had before. So little things like that I would pick up on. And when I would, like, it's funny, like when I, like almost any movie I could watch lately, I could find a Mandela effect. So I'm sitting down with my kids and we're going to watch Raiders of the Lost Ark. And I'm like, don't worry, Daddy's going to find you a Mandela effect here. And within the first 10 minutes, I find the Mandela effect with Indiana Jones, and how when he's going through they're getting that little golden idol and he's trying to escape before the big rock falls on him. There's one scene where he jumps through this door that's going down and he has to reach back and grab something, almost like he could almost have gotten stuck there.
Right.
Do you remember what that was?
Hat.
Does anyone?
I don't remember.
Hat.
Yeah, I agree with Jerry. It was the hat. Like that was the whole thing. Like Indiana Jones always saves his hat.
Yes.
Yeah, I think it was the hat. Yeah.
Now he saves his whip. And I'm like, kids, that's not how it is. Indiana Jones he's going to prefer his hat over his whip. At least he did in the original one. So now he goes back and he pulls his whip out, and I'm like, that's not right. So if you're observant and your memory, you could find things. So there's Mandela effects all over the place.
It's funny because it's one of those things, like, it's a hat. Like, what's the big deal? But he reaches out real quick and snatches it.
I know. In the next movie, The Temple of Doom, there's like a thing where he goes back and he saves his hat again. And it was like a ha-ha thing, like, oh, it was from the first movie, so he didn't.
A callback, yeah.
Yeah, but then people would watch both those movies, and they'd be like, oh, you're just remembering it from the second one. And I'm like, no, he saved his hat in both. So, yeah.
And you see a lot of that referring back to, like, we talked about the Fly My Pretty Fly. You've seen that, reenacted tons of times.
Yeah.
But,
lots of times.
Right, but that's...
And why would they just make that up? What's such a weird thing to say?
Yeah, why would everybody make up the same exact thing? That's the thing. That's how it is with the chicken leg. It's like, why would everybody remember a chicken leg out of all the items the guy could have had in this? What was that Henry VIII painting, right?
Oh, the turkey leg, yeah.
The turkey leg, yeah.
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah. But it could have been anything, because that's such a random thing for everybody to assume that he had, you know what I mean?
Right.
I just remembered the drumstick leg, That's... But yeah.
Heather, can we get the slides back up, please?
Because I think we've got
our amazing producer, Heather, over here doing an amazing job keeping things on track for us. We very much appreciate it.
Yeah, so now the next slide is our last slide, which is questions.
Perfectly timed. Any questions from the chat, ladies and gentlemen? I have seen one or two coming up in here, but I'm not sure. They're pretty ways back here. Any questions about... what if our consciousness is already in a cloud, a spiritual cloud bearing down into meat suits? Or beaming down into meat suits. What do you guys think? You think we could be just a consciousness that's out there that is beamed into this body somehow, and like an avatar, if you will?
Who wants to go first with that one? Cynthia?
Oh, well, I think beamed into it, that implies that there's something doing the beaming and it's coming from someplace. And so it introduces a lot of variables. So what exactly is going on? For me personally, it doesn't feel like that. I have an experience of consciousness where I can shut down parts of my left brain thinking and get more and more into direct experience of reality, which is useful when I'm tuning in to get intuitive information and insights. And when I do that, I don't feel like I'm beaming into myself, or I don't get that feeling at all. So it doesn't personally match for me, but I wouldn't rule it out maybe if someone wants that experience, anything seems to be possible from what I've seen. So who knows, could be for some people.
What do you think, Shane?
I do feel like we're a small part of what we really are in some senses. You might think of it in that sort of beamed way, but I'm with Cynthia. I kind of think of it as we're just the smaller part of what we are, rather than I guess our perceptions are limited from what we are full of who we really are, our full expansive. I think we're way more expansive. So in that sense, I do feel like we're in these suits, if you will, vessels that aren't really us. They're sort of our vehicles for this world, this earth, you know, and that they can die and we'll live on. So in that sense, I do feel like we're inside of them, but I don't feel like it's like beamed or anything.
How about you, Chris? Would you agree with that, or would you add something to that?
Yeah,
What do you think?
Yeah, what I would add is that, you know, my belief system at this particular moment is like the whole holographic reality, and that we are actually holograms. I wouldn't call us meat suits. I mean, you could technically say that, but more of a human DNA expression. And it's almost like the movie Avatar, but kind of backwards, because, you know, I believe that there is the higher self concept. You could also think of it as your super consciousness, which is maybe overseeing many different versions of yourself, having different experiences and learning from those experiences and so forth. So you're probably like 1% of your total grand being that you actually are. So I don't know about the beaming part. Like, I feel like I'm here in my body, but yes, so I believe that there's a lot more to, you know, to that. It's a way to, definitely is a way to look at it. And, you know, have us all even having these thoughts is showing us that our consciousness is expanding to be like, we're more than what we thought we were when we're completely immersed in the experience. When we're completely immersed in this 3D experience, we think this is it. You know, when I die, that's, you know, you're dead forever. But in reality, I don't believe that's the way it is at all. You go on, like, you can't die if you wanted to do. I mean, your body could die, but you yourself, your consciousness can't.
Right.
So I'm going to take this in a completely different direction. After coming off of a month of doing a consciousness philosophic study on the show, the radio show, I can tell you I come at this from a completely different angle. First, I like the meat suit thing. That totally, meat suits, I fully agree with that total concept. Here's the way I see it. The brain does not create consciousness. Period, hands down. It is not a side effect of the brain. That is my opinion. What I think happens is something along the lines of the beaming. I get what they're saying with this. So a collective consciousness, we're all a part of the collective conscious. However, individually, we have a stream of consciousness that is our own personality, our own stream of consciousness, our own thought forms, all of that is connected into the collective conscious. So I believe the brain is just as much a receiver as it is a transmitter, a transmitter as it is a receiver, receiving consciousness by some degree. Now, people say, well, when this part of the brain or that part of the brain's messed up, you know, this or that happens. Well, if the receiver of a radio is messed up, you're going to get a garbled signal. You're going to get the wrong answers. You're going to have oddities in this case in the human body or the human system. So I do think that consciousness is beamed or streamed into the receiver of the brain and transmitter, of course, but the receiver of the brain, at which point it is, what's the word I'm looking for? I ran out of the words. It's
processed.
Manifested as manifest ain't the word I'm looking for. Disseminated is the word I was looking for. I had the first diz and he kept saying discern. I was looking for disseminated. But the consciousness is then disseminated throughout the body and what we consider conscious experience. And we're able to have these conscious experiences, yet we also find the abilities to have experiences that our thoughts affect literal matter outside the body. Therefore, it can't be inside the brain. It has to be at least to some degree within a field around us that we're able to literally tune into with our brains. So as far as beaming in consciousness, I fully see what they mean with that. And I would agree with that. That is beaming into the receiver of the brain. And ergo, we are conscious and of the experience that we're having, but we are not our bodies. That is my opinion on the whole topic. And I apologize for the rant.
Well, the beaming thing does happen. I've seen some people talking about how they feel like they have been targeted by beams of consciousness where they had thoughts that were not their own. And so, you know, I've definitely heard of that kind of thing. But I don't know that it's a natural phenomenon so much to receive it that way. Like your thoughts are being beamed into you, and then you've got ideas that came from this beaming of, you know, some targeted, somebody that targeted you.
It would work for me if I was part of the beam, or if I was actually the beam. You could, it would kind of fit
The
in
beam
the way.
being a stream of consciousness, one word for the other. Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
Beam me up, Scotty.
Where did that come from? I've never heard that before.
Never said that.
Was that on some show or something? I don't remember. Sounds familiar. Star Trekker or something?
Yeah, you got some splaining to do.
Yeah.
Chris, they want to know, what are you going to post the next video in your symphony series, sir?
Okay, so I just filmed 5 videos, fringe level 1, 2, 3, 4, and 5. I call it my fringe intermission, and I'm probably going to start posting them, probably not for another 2 or 3 weeks, but they definitely will give you something to think about. I cover mandanimals, I cover extinct animals. I do this really interesting exercise regarding an extinct animal that I think people will find interesting when you watch it. And then I go way out there. I go fringe level 5, and I talk about Topsy the elephant, which was something I've spoken about her before, but there are things about her I didn't want to reveal because I thought people would be like, oh my goodness, the quantum businessman, he's really lost it now. But people have been commenting to me like I should say everything that I learned. So I did. I created a video about Topsy the elephant and something very interesting about her that she wanted me to share. And yeah, so I hope everyone enjoys it when they come out. So soon, a few weeks, 2 or 3 weeks.
Few weeks. Excellent.
I've heard a lot of good things about
people
enjoying it, commenting that they've been enjoying the series. So
that's cool.
We're looking forward to whatever you got.
I've had a lot of people tell me that they've been enjoying it too. People that I know and stuff like that have been telling me they really enjoyed watching that series. So you're getting a lot of compliments that you're not getting directly, but people are enjoying it, sir.
Cool. I appreciate that. And thank you everyone that's watching it and enjoying it. I enjoy making them. So it's a win for everyone.
We got 48 watching right now. Speaking of watching, we appreciate every last one of you guys, whether you're over here in the chat interacting with us or just watching along or listening along. We very much appreciate you guys joining us for this first episode of the Golden Timeline, or of the IMEC Open Tables, episode 1 being the Golden Timeline. We've discussed a lot this episode, and I want to finish out with one last comment from Eileen Colts. You guys may or may not have heard of this. I haven't. It says International Mandela Effect Conference. Overprotected just told me that a Tin Man has a bow tie now, and he does.
No way.
The Tin Man and the
me?
Wizard of Oz having a bow tie. What do you guys think? Up for a vote. What do you guys think?
No bow tie. No.
No, you would remember a bow tie.
You do?
Is it metal looking? Is it metal looking?
They didn't give me that much information. They said they looked it up and it's actually theirs. So I haven't qualified it myself. I haven't verified it. But
I don't remember a bow tie.
It was there. Then somebody else said, yeah, I looked. It's there. So
yeah,
wow.
I'll add one more thing too. Just you can start watching things closely. The Glinda, the Good Witch of the North, I think that's who it is. Did she always have a big butterfly choker thing? Was it just me? Because I could have got that messed up. But she has like a big butterfly thing on her neck that I don't remember.
I don't remember a butterfly.
Now we're ad-libbing Mandela effect.
Well, there's for sure. Yeah, there's.
Ladies and gentlemen, I present the Tin Man with the bow tie.
There you go. That's new. Absolutely, that's new.
Yeah, I do not remember a bow tie.
Yeah, no.
It's even in costume form.
Wow.
Huh. So there you go, ladies and gentlemen. There is proof to back up the claim. There is a bow tie a metal bow tie on the Tin Man, a tin tie. Heather got us a picture pulled up here. Very good. Appreciate that, Heather. She done went hunting for us, too. Our producer back here catching Mandela effects for us. We very much appreciate it. That is awesome.
What if he shows up with a gold leg, like C-3PO, like the opposite? What's going on? What kind of reality timeline is this?
Speaking of opposites, it's the opposite of the beginning, ladies and gentlemen. We've come to the end of the show, unfortunately. So I'm going to go around the table one last time for final thoughts. Anything, everything, anything you'd like to get off your chest, where to find you, all that good information. Because even though we are a team, we also have our own independent things going on too. So I'm going to start this time with Mr. Chris Anatra, the quantum businessman.
Yeah, so just I thank everyone for watching my videos. Leave me comments. I read all the comments. It helps me like figure out what I'm going to go to next, or what possibly could use attention for me to further explain things. So again, a big thank you to everyone, and I'm going to keep making videos and keep giving them a thumbs up, and I'll keep making more. Thank you.
So you can be found on YouTube, yes, sir?
Yes, you can find me on YouTube under Quantum Businessman. Yes.
And if somebody wanted to get a hold of you, is there an email, or can they find that on YouTube? Or
there's actually I made a simple little website, quantumbusinessman.com, and you can reach me at chris@quantumbusinessman.com. So
there you go, ladies and gentlemen. If you're interested in asking Chris every day now when his next video is coming out and staying on him about it, there's how you get a hold of him. Please don't do that. He will kill me if you do. Cynthia, up next. Any final thoughts in how to find you and all that fun stuff?
Oh, just love getting together with you guys. This has been a great experience and love the community. So best way to get a hold of me is through my website, realityshifters.com. And all of those newsletters are posted online. So if you feel like you've missed out of 20 years of monthly newsletters, you haven't. I mean, most people don't actually read all of them, but they're all there. And you can subscribe and get the next monthly issue. And I do have a YouTube channel, and I'm on Facebook and Twitter, and I've got a podcast, Living the Quantum Dream. So lots of things going on. Best thing is just check the realityshifters.com, and that's the best way to reach me via email as well. There's a contact page there.
Excellent. Thank you so much. And I love the Reality Shifters, guys. I get it every month, once a month. It's always upbeat, happy, cheery. It's always a welcome email in my email box. So if you haven't, go over there, check out realityshifters.com, sign up for the email. It's once a month. It's worth it. I promise you, it's absolutely worth it. Next up, ladies and gentlemen, Shane, also known as Unbiased and On the Fence. How can people find you, Shane?
Absolutely. You can find me on YouTube at the YouTube channel Unbiased and On the Fence. But if you want to remember everything easily, I've got links from my website to contact me, or to go to the YouTube channel, and it's uotf.net for Unbiased and On the Fence, uotf.net.
And it looks like we've all got our websites here. Thank you, guys, for being here this evening. Chris, Cynthia, Shane, it's always an absolute amazing pleasure when we're able to get together. We are truly what I consider a dream team. It is absolutely wonderful working with you guys, both on screen and off screen, behind the scenes. I can't tell you how much it really means to me and how much I've really enjoyed ever since we started this. And it really has touched my life to be able to do this with you guys. Speaking of my life, if you want to follow my life, you can check me out at the rippinrabbithole.com. First off, that's where we've got the radio station and the Dark Wolf's Den radio show, as well as the Rippin' Rabbit Hole radio show. Make sure you come check us out over there, rippinrabbithole.com. That is RIPPINRABBITHOLE.com. That's right. Also, you can find me on YouTube at the Dark Wolf's Den Show YouTube channel, as long as they allow us to stay up there. With the current climate of things, I'm not sure how long any of our social medias will continue to function, but for the time being, that's where you can find me. Or you can find us here also at the International Mandela Effect Conference YouTube channel. This is where we're going to be doing more of these episodes. This is merely episode 1. We went a little further than we meant to today. The rest of the episodes I don't think will be as long. I think we've learned some things from this. But it has been an absolute pleasure hanging out with you guys. I want to thank our overall sponsors of the IMEC program that we've got. That is Conscious Life News, Dream Vision 7 Radio Network. Cynthia, aren't you kind of interactive with them?
That's where my podcast is, Living the Quantum Dream at Dream Vision 7 Radio Network. That's right.
That is awesome. So if you want to follow Cynthia's podcast, check out Dream Vision 7 Radio Network, as well as Higher Journey with Alexa Brooks. And she's actually now also hosting, what was the name of that Heather Wade show, right?
No, this is that's a different thing. Alexis Brooks is doing something. I forget which channel, History Channel or something. But Heather Wade is a different show. So
Okay, I thought she took over like Midnight in the Desert or something. Didn't Alexa pick up?
well, that fell through. So it started. Now she's doing something.
Oh.
Yeah.
Okay, well, I am talking off the wrong side of my body, so I need to go ahead and stop that. And of course, myself and AJ over at Ripon Common Sense Radio are also sponsors of the IMEC organization, as well as everybody who helped sponsor us so far, and even just being here this evening and hanging out with us. That's also a lot of sponsorship, and we very, very much appreciate every last one of you guys. And I've closed the chat out. No, I haven't. Go ahead and read out the chat real quick. One, Eileen Colts, Laura Lee, Mike Johnson, GMR Code, Shondell Rivers, Allison E., Mustard Seed of Faith. I like that. Even but a mustard seed of faith can move a mountain. Brenda Mitchell, Cassie Wright's been hanging out with us for quite a while and interacting over here in the chat. And if I missed anybody, Jerry Mars, Mars, good to see you there. David Morris, Alva Yarder, and if I missed anybody, I do apologize. Also Morgan H, I see over there. So, ladies and gentlemen, on behalf of Cynthia Sue Larson, Christopher Anatra, Shane of Unbiased and On the Fence, and I almost forgot, our amazing producer. She's done a wonderful job behind the scenes. We can't do any of this without her. She's been absolutely incredible. She's been with us from the first conference on. Our producer, Heather, we are so very, very deeply, sincerely glad to have you on board and have you help behind the scenes. You've done an incredible job, and we cannot thank you enough. So from the bottom of all of our hearts, all four of us, I personally would like to say thank you sincerely. And on that note, ladies and gentlemen, on behalf of Miss Heather, our producer, Christopher Anatra, Cynthia Sue Larson, Shane Unbiased and On the Fence, my name is Jerry Hicks, also known as the Dark Wolf, and we'll see you on the next time with the IMEC Open Tables. Bye, everybody.
Bye.